What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and this video I want to talk about if Batman will be a Talon in Gotham Knights. Now, I've been asked this by a few people to make this video, so I am fulfilling my duties as a creator to you guys. But it's something we've touched upon in past videos. We've talked about Batman quite a bit. I've said, could you play as him at the end of the game? Maybe like DLC, just set it up for like Gotham Knights 2 with Batman in it. There's a lot of discussion, and I don't want to make it all about Batman because you do have to be fair to Warner Bros. Montreal. You do have to be fair to Gotham Knights, and that it's about the Gotham Knights, But I think to throw in a couple mysteries, which we'll talk about those mysteries as this video goes on, I think it makes a lot of sense to not just keep Batman alive, or around even, but having him, potentially be in different circumstances, okay? So I want to talk about that all in this video. Make sure, as always, if you guys are new here, you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, so you know all these videos go up. If you super like my stuff, I do have a second channel. It's called Podcast Now Plus. I always leave a link for it in the description below if you guys want to check it out. And I still make Gotham Knights videos. I still try to do one every 5 or so days. I get that it's completely dead, that there's really not too much to talk about, but I definitely want to keep discussions around on this game. I think that I owe you guys so much for all the support you've always given me. I do want to continue talking about the game, and I think probably around E3 time we'll be changing our tone of voice when it comes to this game, okay? I have a good feeling about this game over this summer at some point. Maybe it's not at E3, but at some point. And we'll talk about that, by the way, in future videos once we get into May. All right, so I do believe, and I've always said this, I was actually, to my knowledge, I was like the first person to make a video, at least the first person that made a video that was big enough to be seen on YouTube that talked about how I don't think Batman is dead in Gotham Knights. It is definitely bold to do something like that. I think I, over time, have respected the idea of it more and more. Like, if it does happen, it's like, will it be a massive disappointment? Will it be something that I'm upset about? Yeah, probably. I gotta be honest with you guys. Like, it's just something that, leading into it, like, I wanted Batman in it. I didn't need to play as him for the majority of the time, but I wanted him in it. And so to not have him in the game, I know there'll be people that say, oh, just cry in the corner, move on, all that stuff. I mean, yeah, you do have to move on, and I'm not going to hold it against the game, but I think it's okay and fair to be disappointed in it. That's definitely an aside, but, I think Batman's going to be in this game. We talked about flashbacks in the last video, and I think that's a clever way of, if you're literally going to kill him off, if he's going to actually be gone, and this video say, he's not a Talon, he's not resurrected, say he's not dead and brought back, with anything, with like literally he's not in this game whatsoever, I think that a flashback kind of sequence would be a clever way of still doing it. You could still have some interaction with him, with the other Gotham Knights, and you can kind of, I guess, grow their personalities, and again, grow why they became members of the Gotham Knights. So we talked about that in the last video. I personally think that's a clever way, in a different way. It's been done before, flashbacks, but it's a different-ish way of doing it. Now, if he's a Talon, I think that makes sense. Talons were kind of focused on pretty heavily in the trailer that we have. There were a lot of talk that's definitely like disappeared now, but we'll have to see how much of it was true. Remember, leading into this game's reveal, there was theories, there was potential talk that like maybe Talons are in control of certain sections of the map, and when you take out a Talon, you could kind of like revitalize or like bring back that area. I talked a year ago, I think around a year ago, about the Nemesis system, how I would love the Nemesis system to be in this game. I still think it's possible. I don't think it's likely, but I think it's possible, and it could be something that they're holding on to, because again, we don't really know how, well, we've seen them fight enemies. I feel like they would have mentioned it there anyway, but I'm still going to hold out hope until they flat out say that the Nemesis system isn't in this game. But I think it's an interesting idea to play around with how much power Talons have. I like those kind of games that have those kind of regions, and they have, it's a very, even like a game like Ghost of Tsushima has it. There are so many games out there that, there's camps or there's areas that's controlled by the enemies, and they have like a hold over the area, and when you take out the area, and you can do it different ways. You can take out the area and it gives you something, whether it be, an ability or an area to go to that could also do something, or maybe it's just looks. Maybe, again, like you kind of just, like rehabilitate, like the area, but you could also do a thing that other games have kind of done as well, where the enemy can take it back. So maybe you take out an area with a Talon, and then a new Talon comes in when you're not there, and takes it back, and you have to go back and forth. That's a slippery slope, just because then if the game isn't done correctly, you could have it be like where every 5 minutes, you take an area, you leave it, and then it gets retaken. And it's like, okay, well, this is just stupid. I'm not going to take the same area over and over again. And, I'm only mentioning this because I think that there is going to be an emphasis on the Talons. Like, the group of the Court of Owls, they're the main villain, but they, from what I know at least, they're not like the biggest fighters in the world, right? They mainly have their minions that do the work for them, which is the Talons. I think it is very possible that Batman was taken or he went undercover or something, and he's now part of that organization. I think we talked about the detective stuff. I threw that in there in the beginning of the video just so I myself personally, I wouldn't forget. Because remember, well, two things. Number one, I don't want to forget the phrase capture the night. So there's a reason why Gotham Knights was literally first introduced to us, the public, on that pitch. And I said that back literally day one when the game was unveiled at DC Fandom, and we talked about how Batman's not dead. I brought up capture the night because, yeah, I mean, that was a phrase. You're literally capturing Batman. Now we know that he's quote-unquote dead. It just makes sense. But also, like we've heard them say, people from Warner Bros. Montreal, a big portion of this game, or a big emphasis, maybe not portion, but emphasis on this game is going to be detective stuff, is going to be figuring stuff out. What happened? How do we go against the Court of Owls? How do we beat an enemy that is that smart and powerful, okay? And I think that you can do a lot. And we talked about detective work, in past videos. I think you could do a lot with detective work, and it could eventually lead you into realizing that something is up. In fact, I think I mentioned that where, if the game is very focused on detective stuff, maybe there's a thread, a story thread throughout the game that when you're playing it, you're like, you know what? Things seem kind of weird. Like, not everything is adding up. And then maybe you figure it out before the game characters. Maybe they tell you, and that's how you figure it out. However fast you are catching up to things. But I think there could be a point where it's like, you know what? Did he actually die? I think that your work in the game is what's going to lead into that, or what's going to lead up to that. And then we can have a final confrontation. Again, we've talked about that as well, where it's like, if he's like the final boss, that would definitely be a super cool thing. Can you, knock him out of his, whatever, his mind control or whatever the heck they use to kind of, possess him in that way? Can you bring him back to your side? Like I've said in the past videos with, like, having him around at the end, okay? Because, so if he's a Talon, I think he survives. If he's a Talon, I think you get him back on your team. I think he's like the mentor role going forward. But he's just that. I think that you can have it so that you can still play as him. Maybe you can play as him afterwards. In fact, we mentioned that too, right? Like, how do you do end game content for Gotham Knights? Well, one very easy but very cool way of doing it is just simply throwing in Batman. So you've had these 4 characters. Maybe now you play as Batman, and through DLC or through some sort of season pass or whatever, you could introduce more villains. Maybe you could have another story arc with the Joker, or Harley, or Two-Face, or whoever you want to choose. Maybe that you've already beaten them in the story with the Gotham Knights, but now you do it again as Batman. But again, not putting everything on him, because I do believe that. I don't believe he's dead, but I do believe them when they say, like, we want it to not be about him. We want to move on from that kind of legacy, from that character, and we want to give it and put emphasis on these 4. Some of them have been in past things, and we want to and actually all of them, and we want to, like, elevate them. And so I believe that part. I believe that their major focus is on the Gotham Knights. So even if Batman comes back, he still needs to not be the biggest focus. And I think that's kind of the best of both worlds. We get Batman, maybe we get to play as him. He does, in a weird way, become like an integral part of the Gotham Knights story, even if we don't think he would be right now, right? Because if the whole story is figuring out what's going on with the Court of Owls and figuring out Batman's disappearance or death, and then you find out that he either infiltrated them or they captured him or whatever, then that does that becomes like the main story arc. So, and Batman's obviously, or Bruce Wayne, is a big part of that. So I think that could be a lot of fun. I think the possibility there's high. Like I said, there's definitely a couple of things they could do. They could keep him dead, like he could just actually be dead. They could have him be a Talon. They could have him be dead and then go like the Lazarus Pit where they resurrect him. They could go down that route. There's a couple different ways. And so I don't think that any way is guaranteed. I think some ways maybe make more sense than others. But at this point, considering we've seen about, 8-9 minutes of gameplay, it's all just predictions, right? So let me know, guys, in the comments below, what do you think? Do you think Batman will be a Talon? Do you think that he'll be dead? Do you think that he could be brought back to life? Whatever situation you think he's in, let me know. As always, again, make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on. Again, my second channel's name is Podcast Now Plus. Links in the description below if you guys want to check that out. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Really, I know we're in a dead period. I do think that's going to turn around pretty darn quickly, and so we don't have that long of a wait ahead of us, I think, okay? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video.